We take you live to the AMO Conference in Ottawa, where Premier Ford is speaking again.
Yeah, thank you. As I mentioned to the Prime Minister, we don't know what President Trump will do. And to be very frank, I think sometimes I don't even think he knows what he's going to do from day to day. But here's what we do know. We know how to build the most competitive economy in the G7. We know we need to make life more affordable, and we know we need to reduce the cost of doing business here in Ontario and across the country. We know we need to create the conditions to attract new investments and create more jobs. We know we have to build. And folks, these are your numbers. These aren't my numbers. The direct foreign investment came in about a month ago, and for 2024, I know it was a whole different, game out there back in 2024, but each municipality contributed these numbers. 409 companies from foreign countries invested $39.875 billion, so let's round it off to 40 billion, and created 25,000 jobs in your communities. And just talking about economic development, I see Nina, you're doing a great job, and where's my buddy Vic? He's probably traveling around the world creating more jobs, but we can't do this without the support of the municipalities. And I'm very, very grateful for your support when we bring you proposals. Friends, since we met last year, the world has changed. President Trump's tariffs are taking direct aim at our country, our province, and our people. Communities across Ontario are feeling the impact, and I know workers and their families are worried. I've been clear since day one, making the case to the Trump administration and to the ordinary Americans, this is no way to treat your best customer, your number one customer, their friend, and their closest ally. These tariffs aren't just impacting Canadians, they're hurting American families and businesses. They're making life more expensive south of the border, and they're making life more uncertain for millions of workers who depend on free and open trade, because a tariff on Canada is a tax on Americans. And I'll tell you, folks, I say it all the time, it's not the American people. It's not even the Republican governors or senators or congresspeople. I talk to them almost on a daily basis, and they're frustrated. They know we're their closest ally. They know that we buy more products off the U.S. than Japan, Korea, China, the UK, and France combined. We are an economic powerhouse in Canada, and we will never take a backseat to anyone, and we'll sure not take a backseat to President Trump, and we'll get through this. As I mentioned, a tariff on Canada is a tax on Americans, and it needs to end. We're going to keep making the case that we're better off working together, but as Canadians, we also need to be prepared to stand on our own 2 feet. And folks, I know that Canada is up for the challenge. Over the last few months, we've seen our country come together like never before, and I love forgetting about these political stripes that I've said from the day I got elected. I don't give two hoots about political stripes. I care about working for communities and the people and the companies. We're more united and more determined to stand up for Canada than at any time in my entire lifetime. We made it clear to President Trump and to the world that Canada is not for sale, and Canada will never, ever be a 51st state. But now it's up to all of us here to put those words into action, because the challenge we're facing today is about more than just tariffs or one man in the White House. As Canadians, we need to look at ourselves and make sure we're doing everything in our province to unleash the incredible potential of our province and our country. As I've said, let's focus on what we can do to attract more businesses, make life more affordable, to get houses built, to support businesses. That's what we need to start focusing on. Yes, I'll never stop, poking Donald Trump, but we're going to focus on what we can do. So that no matter who the next president is, or whatever the next crisis, we're able to protect our workers, the services the public relies on, and our communities. Not just from President Trump, but from anything that comes our way for decades to come. We need to build a stronger and more resilient and self-reliant economy. We need to make Ontario the most competitive place in the G7 to invest, create jobs, and do business. And we need to do it together, working collaboratively together, working with all levels of government and Indigenous communities. Over the last few months, that's what our government has been doing. We're tearing down internal trade barriers to make it easier to work, buy, and sell across Canada. We've already signed trade agreements with 10 other provinces and territories. And Ontario was the first province in Canada to remove all of the exceptions under the Canadian Free Trade Agreement. And you know what I find ironic? We talked about this. Probably 98% of the population didn't realize we even had a Canadian Free Trade Agreement. And I'm glad we brought it to the forefront. So now that can add over $200 billion in economic growth. It can grow the economy anywhere from 4 to 6%. So it's a powerful tool. We're also unlocking Ontario's critical mineral reserves and providing more than $3 billion in support to give First Nations equity and ownership in these important projects. And we're investing over $500 million in the new Critical Minerals Processing Fund. So minerals mined in Ontario are refined in Ontario by Ontario workers. This fund will be a game changer for northern communities, places like Thunder Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, Timmins, Sudbury, and the list goes on. We're delivering nearly $30 billion in relief and support for workers and businesses that have been hit hard by the U.S. tariffs. That includes our $1 billion Protect Ontario financing program, which was launched just last week. And we're investing $2.5 billion in our Skills Development Fund to support workers with the training they need to find good-paying jobs. And I just want to thank Minister Piccini. If you're here, we went from $1 billion to $1.5 billion, and it's helping tremendously. And of course, we're continuing to invest record amounts to protect important services like healthcare. You know, our foundation of our healthcare system, our foundation of our infrastructure projects, our education system is one thing, and that's our economy. And we have a strong economy. We'll be able to continue investing in those areas. We're investing nearly $60 billion. Actually, it's probably well over $60 billion to build and upgrade more than 50 hospitals and one big hospital right here in Ottawa, the Ottawa General Hospital, second largest building in the entire country. New medical schools to train more nurses and doctors, and $2.1 billion to connect everyone in our province to a family doctor or primary care team by 2029. And I want to thank Minister Jones and Jane Philpott for that. They're working like a tag team, and they work very well together. As we make these investments, our government is buying Ontario and Canadian-made products wherever we can. Every year, Ontario spends nearly $30 billion on procurement.
We've been listening to Premier Doug Ford speaking to the Association of Municipalities, the conference in Ottawa, making the pitch for Ontario and to attract more businesses and business investment to the province. We'll have a lot more on that throughout the morning and afternoon.